Hello, and we're live on YouTube. So sorry, I'm a few minutes late. My computer decided to do its usual log out, log in thing, but we're here now. So how are you all doing? This weekend's been quite interesting for me. I felt a lot of agitation and kind of, I guess, a bit of dismay or feeling let down, or things are not quite going as you expected, despite the part of the Ascension process that we're on. It felt very much like that. But I also know that sometimes that's the old energy bubbling up to be let go of. So how have you guys all been feeling? Let me know in the comments so I know that we've got the YouTube all working. So those on Zoom can chat through the Zoom message. I always get an itchy nose as soon as I start chatting. My friend used to say she used to get itchy nose when she used to do a massage when her spirit guides were coming in. So I'm going to blame it on them. Okay, that's all up and going. Fabulous. So hello to all on YouTube and hello to everyone on Zoom. So grab yourself a cup of tea and come and join me. We said this week we were going to talk about make your mess your message, which is a kind of business advice for when people are doing niches and creating businesses, but I think it's very relevant to self-discovery as well. So we're going to be covering that today, or as much as we can in 30 minutes anyway. You know, when I come here every Monday, it's just to give you the highlights. If you want to know more about this, then my membership is where we go deeper into some of these things. And obviously after this 30-minute live, I'm with a group on Zoom, so we can chat a bit more and you can ask more questions. So you've always had the choice to join me there as well. So we've got a few more people to come online, and Jenny says she's been feeling good, energized and positive. Excellent. I seem to be a bit ahead of other people, so this might come next for others, but we'll see, because I'm trying to work out how my energy is flowing compared with everybody else as well. So notice if you get this agitation next. And I think this make your mess your message is really relevant this month, because I think next month is going to be a very much, after all these huge energies we've had, we're going to be needing some time to process it all during September as we lead up to the equinox in September. So hopefully you're all comfortable now and you've all got settled in. So don't forget, you can chat to me through the chats. And I just asked you all to let me know how you've all been feeling over this last weekend after these sort of lion gateways, Syrian energy gateways have been closing down. Well, they say closing down, they're there all year, but the thinness of the veil, when more people feel it, that's been closing down. So Christine said it's been a challenge, kicked your butt, purging emotions coming out. Yeah, definitely. Regrouping. Yeah, that regrouping energy is coming in now, ready for September. So that's really interesting. And fasting. Yeah, I haven't been eating much either, so that's interesting. So I noticed that I didn't want to eat my usual foods, and I've just been cutting down a bit more and sort of just fruit. And I don't normally eat fruit. Fruit's not actually good for me generally. So I've been more on fruit. Interesting. Cool. Okay, so let's get started then. So, sorry, my nose is really being tickled today. I guess this is an important subject. So I'm Trudy, and I'm here every Monday to do the Quantum Human Revelations. And this is all about the fact that we're in a huge shift from whether you believe in ascension or not. You cannot deny what's going on in the outer world. It's crazy out there. You never know what's going to happen next, what's going to fall, what's going to lift up. We just, you know, there's new things, new ideas and restraints and opportunities. It's like everything has been thrown in the air and it's all there now, just hanging around our heads. And of course, this is going to leave us very much, this is very much going to leave us a bit unstable. So we spoke about the earthquake recently. We spoke about the flood of emotions that are coming up and that we're having to deal with. So there's been a lot going on for us to manage, and it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And it's quite funny because sometimes I hear people say, oh, I'm in the 5D energy, I'm all in bliss. But that's just one tiny phase of what we go through. It's a roller coaster. You might get a bit of bliss while you're integrating. Then you have to do the work. If you really want to step into 5D and 5D consciousness, you have to do the work. And that kind of leads on from what we were talking about last week about King Arthur. So we said about King Arthur being a very good symbol for what we're going through in August. So I just wanted to give you a few more updates on the King Arthur story. So I learned that the Holy Grail is also being referred to in some texts as being our Kundalini energy, our Chi, our life force, our Shakti, whichever word you want to use for that. So I thought that was quite interesting, because we know that we said it was about the fountain of youth and time. And if we then link it to our Kundalini energy awakening as well, and this creative energy coming online, I think that's really relevant then to the King Arthur story. So hopefully that will give you a bit more insight when you tune into that King Arthur story. But also King Arthur went down into the underworld, which is the mess, the shadow, the darkness, before he came out triumphant. And I think that's why it kind of leads into today's topic, making your mess your message. So the whole point of this Quantum Human Revelations is that I want to try and awaken people who have been sleeping, waiting for this moment in the human evolution, with skills and abilities that they didn't even know they had, to awaken those up so they can actually step up and start taking a leadership role by being examples to others, or actually creating new projects or bringing new ideas to the earth, whether that be in families, in communities, or even in corporations. So the important thing is these are not necessarily healers. These are people who are just going to start using what healers have used up until now, but in everyday jobs. And for me, that's very much I think we have enough healers and enough coaches at the moment. But what we need is people who are brave enough to take those examples into industry, into their jobs, and start kind of becoming that energy from the inside out, you know, creating the energy inside that ripples through companies and creates change from the inside out. Because many of us go and we have our spiritual healings, or we have our soul journeys and our meditations, but we don't really take that back into the office, really. And we spend 50% of our time in the office, a time where we're complying, trying to fit in, trying to reach deadlines that somebody else has given us. And in that role, we're losing 50% of our opportunity to grow and to become who we're meant to be. So it's the people who are brave enough to go in and say, hang on, this doesn't seem right. There must be a better way. And that's what a quantum human is. Now, a quantum human has to be impactful. They have to be able to create change. So they need to be able to take action. So this is why I say it's a combination of 5D skills, whether it's intuitive decision-making, being an energy alchemist, being able to change the energy of spaces and make people feel better, and blending it with a 3D action. Especially if you're a high achiever, then that's the best combination. Somebody who's a high achiever that can really make their vision become a reality. Those are what the quantum human skills that we're trying to awaken. So we're bringing in a new frequency. And for the last few weeks, we've been talking about this as your creative energy, because it's getting really important that we value our creative energy, because whilst we can't eat money, we need money to live. And it's our creative energy that is the tool or the resource that we have in order to make money. So that kind of fits in with where we've been coming from with the money, and bringing it through as a soul wisdom and understanding our soul and what our soul has to offer. So based on that and knowing what we're meant to be, then how do we make an impact? Like, what are we here to do? What is our soul's great vision? Because our soul actually knows why we're here. It knows what you want to be remembered for. It knows its mission from across timelines. And we also know at this time, those old purposes and old missions are being upgraded into something different, into something newer, as we're becoming more and more liberated from the old chains of karma, time, old beliefs and old limitations. You know, the world is changing that much that we can redefine who we are. And we're stepping into that new story. And I know there's negative energy out there. I know there's bad. I don't speak about it because I don't want to feed it. What I want to feed is the creative force instead. Yes, love as well, but the creative force is really what I want to wake up, so it can stand up alongside the dark and face it, and then find new ways of working together, because you can't just remove a frequency off the planet. What we have to learn is to become alchemists and realign it and reposition it as we go. So I don't know how many of those things resonate with you as being a quantum human. So let me know how that sounds to you, because I've just wanted to recap of what we've been talking about over the last 3 months, I think we've been doing this. So just see how that feels. Hi, Oracle Dragon. And if anybody's got another name and I don't recognize your YouTube handle, you're going to have to tell me. But at least I can see messages coming through on YouTube. So let's see what they've been saying on. Yeah, so we've had the purging, a lot of this emotional changes. Jenny says she's been extra hungry, but also been more active. Yeah. And where did I see the hangry message? Maybe that's disappeared now. Yeah, definitely. I've been more off my food, but like I said, I tend to find that I'm a little bit ahead. My body's a bit ahead on the energies, so maybe it'll come next. But let's just see how everybody, what they step into next. It'll be interesting to see who's at what stage. So how have you guys managed to integrate the messages from last month about time being fluid, about King Arthur, the Holy Grail, this timelessness of there's no past or future, that we're all kind of having the experience at the same time? That's okay. I thought I saw it, and yeah, somebody deleted a message. I thought I saw it, and then it disappeared. No problem. I just thought I was seeing things for a moment. So how did that King Arthur energy show for you? So like I said at the beginning, 5D consciousness doesn't just land in your lap. It comes with a hint, a clue, a nudge. Then you have to kind of clear your frequency out to rise up and meet it. And then it becomes integrated. So just because you have a blissful day one day doesn't mean you're in 5D energy now. It just means that you've had some pleasant energies to help with the next phase. But really, it's all in the mess that we need to look at. So I think there's a lot of human potential coming online. And I did a lot of research over the week, and I'm finding a lot of people talking about new humans, quantum humans, superhumans. And I think, we'll see more and more of that, as well as this multidimensional aspect of who we are. I think those are things we're going to see becoming more spoken about. And yet, if you think about it, we don't even speak about our spiritual practices at work. I know wellness is getting very popular right now, and people are starting to bring in meditation or mindfulness or breath work into the office, but they're not really tapping into this higher consciousness, this divine intelligence, using, like I want to see a project manager say, right, let's come up with new products today, sit down and do a future life progression to see what products they can come up with. That's what I want to see, if that kind of gives you the idea of action versus 5D consciousness. It's that kind of energy I want. And to see people doing that is going to make a huge difference to corporations, which are, part of our everyday lives, not just the artists and the musicians, but actually impacting the whole of society in a bigger way. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is, what does make your mess a message mean? So it's something I learned on a business course when they were saying about your captivating introduction to what you're here to do. So you may think, well, I'm not a business person, I haven't got my own company, but everybody here at this time is a business person. We all have clients, whether that be the employer that we work for, or whether we're self-employed finding our own clients, we still have clients. We are still selling our creative energy and time in exchange for money. So everyone has clients. So how do you know if you're in a job that is right for you? Now, a lot of people are suffering burnout and depression and confusion because, the world is changing. They're not sure what everything means anymore. We're losing that kind of aspect of meaningful work. But again, it's not about creating what is our meaningful work. It's actually about digging into our mess to find the clues as to what our meaningful work is. So for me, make your mess your message is saying that in your shadows, in the areas that you have been trying to heal, that's your expertise, and that's what you're here to help with. Now, whether that be what you sell or something that you offer on the side of your other job is debatable. Each of us is going to have to decide that. But what is deep down inside us, the pain that we're suffering and learning to overcome, is a frequency upgrade. We are learning to change our frequency into higher frequencies. And that's why make your mess your message really fits quite well to self-discovery work. So when we get into that area, then we have to start thinking about, well, if my mess is my message, is there a way of navigating it in a more structured way than waiting for it to hit me like a spanner from the sides, suddenly going whack, here's a new challenge, a new issue, a new pain in your life? Because that approach tends to lead us into the drama, and we end up getting a lot of drama in our lives, which means we get sucked into the emotional loop and the pain of it. And sometimes we don't even see the message in it, and we just are surviving rather than thriving. And the human brain is really set up for survival, with the reptilian brain and the fight or flight response. It's all about surviving, and we want to switch into that thriving mode. So the first thing we have to do is we literally have to remove the word challenges, problems, difficulties out of our vocabulary, and instead see them all as opportunities. And that's just a reframing. That's just simply a reframing thing. And don't get me wrong, some of us have some pretty hard challenges, and I know they're tough. But I think most people you find who have gone on to do great things, or extraordinary things, have had a hardship that allowed them to tap into that potential for them to move forward. So have a think about that for a moment, and what just think about your challenges that you've been going through in your life, and just think about how that might be your message too. So here on Zoom, I don't speak to a soul about what I do, and I have so much to share, but I don't know where to start. Yeah, family won't understand. A lot of people feel like that, but more and more people are actually understanding this now. I'm seeing it in more businesses, it's appearing in more places. So the place to start is kind of what I do with my group. We just start by posting something small that feels safe, and then building it up into what you really want to say. So that's empowering. Thank you is a big jump. Perfectionism is a big hurdle. Yeah, I think perfectionism is actually a block to stop us tuning into our creative energy, because we're afraid of our power. That's the way I see perfectionism. Yeah, exactly, because it makes you vulnerable. But the power, there's a lot of power in vulnerability. It's quite amazing once you tap into that. I'm sure there was one of our talks was called Fearless and Unlimited, or something like that. I think the episode was called. But that's what we were talking about then, is getting past that perfectionism and connecting with our soul wisdom, and how you need a soul tribe to help you do that. So if we have a mess and it's our message, and it's quite interesting in my portal, every time I do one-to-one work with people, I record them for them to play them back. One, because there's like personalized meditations in there that they can replay. But what we've now discovered is that once we finally got to the point where they were back on their life path, once we removed all the old life paths that were blocking their route, once we got back to that, we discovered that a lot of the work that we'd done could actually be now packaged up into their work and made part of their message. So they can actually go back now and mine all those old sessions that we had, and then pick out extra bits of information to make it as part of their, this is my vision, this is what I'm here to do. So that's like a real hard example of how our mess can become our vision and what we're here to do, and our message. So I find that, I've spoken about this before, but I tend to find that, I can't remember which episode I said this, but I'll repeat it. So I feel that the reason we come back to Earth at this time, if we are the quantum humans, is we knew we were coming back to help with Ascension and to help with the physical evolution of the human body. And that we have the ability to change ourselves on a DNA level and play with that, so that we can hold more of our multidimensional soul and access our soul in deeper ways, understanding it on new levels. But because we have amnesia when we get born back onto Earth, and we get wrapped up in the drama and the issues all around us, then how would you remind yourself of what you were here to do? If you were happy, if you had loads of money, would you do anything of value? Would you do anything impactful? Now, I know, there are some people who are out there doing things with their money and creating change, but the average person, what percentage of humanity would do that versus the average person? And I think then that the people who are here to make change often have the harder life and the harder experience, because they are being reminded of the skills that they have. And unfortunately, as humans, we tend to focus on what we don't have as opposed to what we do have. And even though we think our lives have been tough, and I've said this before, there's in the percentage of our overall lives, we'll find that it's usually a smaller bit, because there'll be times of bland and boring in between that will take up much more of the time than simply being in pain. So it's about getting the kind of really looking at our lives and balancing these things out, so we can start seeing, what is it? How can I mine my problems, my challenges, to find the messages? And that's through self-discovery again, just digging into it, reframing it first so that you can sort of step outside the drama and look at it from an objective point of view, and then trying to ask the question, what is this teaching me? And from that, you'll start to see all the parts that make up your message. And it doesn't come linear. Time isn't linear, so it doesn't come linear. It tends to jump around a lot. You get a little bit now, and then 2 weeks later, you get the beginning, and then 3 weeks later, you get the middle, and then eventually you get the whole picture starting to form. But you have to start taking action by analyzing them first for you to start seeing the pattern. So that's the make your mess the message. So the thing is, we spoke last week about timelines, which is how this tied in. There is a version of you out there doing what you want to do. They're already out there doing it. So if we can travel time, which we've already spoken about that we could do a future life progression or a past life progression, or just time travel. I've given up on future and past now. Just a soul journey to a time that you're experiencing the best life doing the things you want to do. And it's amazing what people get, how much of a download they get and what they should be doing. Suddenly they're just talking about it like they've known it all their lives. It's not like they have to really struggle to understand it. And the people who struggle are just simply blocked on the wrong life path, or need some clearing or some energy removed, and then they get to see it. But they all eventually get there and they see something amazing. That's the human potential that we're talking about, that we have available, and we can make it happen now. Just like there's someone out there already doing what you want, there's also somebody out there failing at what you want, trying a different way to do what you want. So you have all these other resources of people. It's like when I talk about parallel lives, that's what I kind of see is we split ourselves, send ourselves out into the universe. You go try A, you go try B, I'm going to try this, let's try that. And then let's all meet back up and share what we've experienced so we can learn from it and move forward. But to do that, you have to be prepared to be destructive and to fail and to make mistakes. Because without that, which is our mess, we don't learn. So we really have to get comfortable in our mess and not be embarrassed about our mess, because often when somebody finally reveals their mess to me, that's when I see the authenticity, their light comes on, because they've just hugged a part of themselves that they've been pushing away for so long. So have you been kind of pushing yourself away, or parts of you away, or your shadows, or your mess, or your problems? Have you been hiding them because you feel that you're not worthy enough with this mess, when in reality, that's your gold? Just checking in on the messages. So remember, you can communicate with all of these beings. You don't have to have courses to do this necessarily. It's good to have a guide to teach you how to do it. But once you can do it anytime. So you learn how to do it. You just trust yourself. You let the communication come in. You allow that soul and that higher consciousness to drive you and guide you. And you can access all this information. But all of this really needs your creative energy, because you need your imagination to be flowing, which if you're in stress, it can't. If you're in fear, it can't. So you have to get some of those things sorted to be able to move into this visioning and to be able to see the future. And by future, it's like your future, what you're here to do, this big impactful thing you're here to do. And once you've done that, you can then start building new stories. And we've been talking about, imagine a timeline as a book, and all your past lives are different chapters. And you're in a particular book at the moment. Well, a lot of work I've been doing with people is saying, throw that book away, start a new book with no past. Keep the lessons, but don't keep the emotional baggage that holds you back. And then what would your life be like? What story would you write if all of that baggage was removed? And that's the new kind of story that we want, which is what I'm calling your great vision. This is now you being liberated from past stories, past spiritual constraints, past time constraints, what it is to be human, all of these things removed, and say, what would I do if I was superhuman? What would I do if I could be anything I wanted today? What would I change? How would I change it? And not looking at the problems you're trying to solve, but literally creating the world you want to see. And like I said, the answer to that is in your mess. That'll give you all the clues that you need. So the interesting thing is that often when people get insights on their mess, I feel they tend to want to become the person who helped them get the insights into their mess. So if you've been to a healer or a coach and you've now got insights into your mess, people instantly then think, oh, I feel good. I must be a coach too. And I think that's where we've been going wrong, because the thing you're meant to do is actually in the mess. You're not here to coach people like you've just been coached. You're meant to take what you've learned and turn it into your unique offering and what you're here to do. So that also involves things like if you take somebody else's course and then decide you're going to be a practitioner of modality X, that was their channeling. That's what they're here to do. It doesn't mean that's what you're here to do. Maybe there's something in there you can learn that will help open up something in you so you can birth your own vision forward. But we have to start getting out of this copying kind of attitude, doing other people's courses, following other gurus to copy what they're doing, copying other people's posts, and really get into this channeling of our own stuff. And again, creative energy is the key to that, because we have to be able to open up this visioning ability that we have, this ability to travel through the timelines and meet ourselves in different dimensions, so we can translate the messages that are coming through, rather than waiting for somebody else's words to resonate and then jumping on their bandwagon. We all need to stay in our own lane. And it's scary. I get it. It's really scary when you come out and start speaking about the stuff. I was terrified when I had to do this. And I've just kept going, and I'm slowly finding more people who agree and are aligned with what I'm saying. And I know then we'll create a movement. So how do you know if you've got a vision or if you're just copying someone? Well, if you're just doing some sort of healing modality or a job where you're just doing it for the sake of the job, then you probably find it's not so meaningful. And we are desperately needing meaningful work right now. I think our souls are like feeling so empty in this world with everything changing around us. We need that meaningful work so that we can actually feel why we're here, what the meaning of life is to a certain degree. So if we want that meaningful work, then we have to look at what are we doing now? Is it satisfying me on this meaningful way? And if not, why not? And again, go back to your mess, look at what your mess is saying, and then see how that fits the work you're actually doing. So as I said in the beginning, I don't think we need more spiritual coaches at the moment. I think we need to see more people, high achievers particularly, because it's going to have to start with the high achievers to bring in a new paradigm, to take this kind of thinking into all walks of life. And then when that ball starts rolling, then it's going to start opening up the doors for everybody else to be able to find their way more easily. But like any pioneer, any adventurer, remember King Arthur was being the adventurer, taking the lead, walking into the darkness, the unknown, and still moving because they had this, taking risks because they had this idea that something bigger than themselves was calling them forward. And that's what we need. But copying, taking other people's courses is not the way to go, because, you know, over the pandemic, we've all seen how many online courses to do Reiki, to do crystal healing popped up. You know, that's online courses and never going to replace the people who have spent years mastering these skills. And it's an experiential thing. So if you weren't there for the experience and you learned it all online, then you've only just mentally absorbed something. You've had new knowledge, but you haven't learned how to utilize it into an impact yet. And that's why we need this creative energy to start bubbling up in us all, so we can start creating our new offerings and our new ideas. Oh, Judy's saying, yeah, can't agree more on copying. Yeah, definitely isn't going to do it. So we've spoken about the multiple timelines. So you got all the information out there, including mistakes that you've made in other timelines, which might actually help you prevent making mistakes this time. Digging into your mess and actually enjoying getting your hands dirty and like pulling out the good bits out of there and seeing that as part of the adventure, just reframing it into an adventure. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we all could turn around to each other and said, oh, guess what? I tried this and failed miserably, rather than hiding and thinking, oh, I better not try that because if I fail, everyone will laugh at me. If that's how you feel, you're hanging out with the wrong people. You know, I celebrate people's failures as much as their success, because at least they tried. At least they weren't the ones being fearful to be seen. They actually tried, and that's to be celebrated in itself. So, oh gosh, it's already half past. Okay, let's just quickly go through the last few things then. So that's the copying. We don't even, so if we can, let's just summarize what we've done so far. So if we can start seeing our problems as clues as to why we're here, it's going to give us the insights that we need. And then if we can get that creative energy, which is what I've been talking about for the last 16 weeks, activated, connecting to our soul wisdom and trusting it and having more courage, then we can actually start bringing forth a impactful vision. And by impact, it's that knowing that not just the people will be different, but that the people, you're not just putting like band-aids on people's problems. You can see that they're changing in such a way that they can go on and create something themselves. You might be the one that goes into work and says, wouldn't it be cool if every morning we started off having meditations at the beginning of the day, which people are starting to do, they're suggesting this now, and then start that as a new movement. Maybe you start a new charity, maybe you start a new group gathering where you just help others get to the same frequency of you. That's more of an impact rather than somebody comes to you, I've got a problem, you fix your problem and send you on your way. So try and think what your bigger vision might be based on the mess that you've experienced. So yeah, that kind of went quick. It always does go quick, but as I said, I'm only here to give you like the highlights. It's not about teaching you everything, because that's in my membership. That's what I do there. And the one thing I have learned is that this stuff isn't something you teach and then suddenly you have. It's a practice. It's a way of being. It's a way of walking your life. And it's a new habit. And we know that it takes up to 60 days to have a new habit. So you can imagine on each of these things, it will take you 60 days to reprogram yourself to work in this way, as opposed to the way that you've been working. So I think next time I'd like to talk a bit more about spirituality and how that may or may not be the answer overall, because like I said, I was kind of curious to see how many different types of jobs are out there at the moment. I think I saw 148,000 financial advisors. So that's 148,000 dedicated to something which is money and helping people with money, which doesn't really help the planet directly, as many as man-made. And then there was something like 100,000 coaches, healers, alternative therapists. But you know, I'm not sure if these stats are correct, but they were a UK basic. And I was thinking, I wonder what the numbers should be, you know, what are all the different jobs? How do we balance this up a bit more? But I don't think it's necessary having more spiritual healers and coaches, because most of the time we're in our own area doing our own thing, helping people, but we still need the doers. We need the spiritual doers, if that makes sense. So we need spiritual people who can do, who are doing and creating change at the same time. And I think that's something I'd like to explore a bit more next Monday. Well, actually, no, next Monday is a bank holiday. So it's going to be in 2 weeks' time. So I won't be here next Monday. So hopefully that has given you some things to think about in regards to your mess, and how there's a lot more gold there than you realize, and how we need to start thinking of what impact our work is doing and how we can start changing the world into the world we want to see. Because whilst the world's falling down around our ears, that's the time when change really comes. In 2021, I got this vision of the Eiffel Tower, and it was only partly built in the image I saw. And it kind of said to me that the energy we're going through now is what happened just before the Eiffel Tower was designed. And I think I heard afterwards the astrology all lined up to that period, like 1870 or something like that. And I think the reason it showed me the Eiffel Tower, because think about it, what use was the Eiffel Tower? It was actually a demonstration of humanity's creativity, ingenuity, of their folly to a certain degree. You know, they built it because they could. And it went on to become a symbol of a city. It went on to become a landmark attraction that brought in tourists into the town. So it actually did end up bringing money into the town as well. But I don't think they thought of that when they built it for the Great Exhibition. And why did they even think that was the thing that was like, you know, to build? That's the kind of thinking we want to get into. It's like, it doesn't make sense, but let's build it and see what happens. Let's create it. Let's find other people creating unusual things and see what we can do with all of that. And then who knows where we'll end up. But we have to start with having more visioning and creative energy before we go anywhere. So keep reading up on those King Arthur stories. Like I said, the whole journey of the Holy Grail is that Kundalini energy, accessing our life force, our creative energy. And we know that selling our creative energy is how we're going to make money. And when money disappears, it's still our creative energy that we need to tap into to get the resources that we need in whatever the new financial or monetary system becomes. So thank you for joining me again. And thank you on YouTube and thank you on Zoom. I'm going to spend some time now with those on Zoom. And as I say, I won't see you for 2 weeks, next Monday. If I do get back in time, I will, but I've got a Dancing with Energy class that I'm doing in my local town. So I'll be out there doing that. So I'm not sure if I'll be back in time. But otherwise, 2 weeks time, we'll carry on the question about what is spirituality and how that need has changed, I think, versus, because, you know, spirituality versus religion. Let's talk about that and how that's changing. Thank you, guys.